There are a variety of reasons why movies get made these days, but here are three key factors. They either want to make copious amounts of money so studio executives can smoke their cigars with $100 bills or whatever it is rich people do and eat caviar off of, I don't know, Russian hookers from Siberia. I don't goddamn know. Or they want to earn so many prestigious awards that they can be showered with love from their peers. Or they just want to share their passion project with the world. Bare their soul, open themselves up, just rip open their ribcage, exposing all their organs, and then potentially dying from the blood loss. Which actually makes you question why they want to show their goddamn passion. But honestly, filmmaking is very tough to do, and studios are looking for any amount of product just to basically shove out on a streaming service, shove out in theaters, and it doesn't goddamn matter. And with so many movies that have come out all over the goddamn last 100+ years since the dawn of filmmaking, one thing's for certain. There have been some really, really unnecessary projects that have been shoved right in our goddamn faces, and even if they make money, even if they make copious amounts of money, you have to question, was this film really goddamn necessary? That's what I'm here to talk about. I'm John Rentham with the 10 most unnecessary movies of 2024 list with some honorable mentions. Just decided to do this last minute because after seeing one particular movie, Mufasa the Lion King, I got the inspiration to do this. I am not going to include Moana 2, by the way, even though I do think it was painfully unnecessary and quite frankly, a bit dog shit. It made a lot of money. A lot of money, because kids do not know any better. That being said, if your kids enjoyed it, that's great. But to be perfectly honest, I've seen over 300 goddamn movies this year, guys, so I had to go back through the archives. I don't actually think that's how the word goes. And check out some movies that I reviewed that I honestly forgot came out earlier this year. So, yeah, let's crack on with the honorable mentions, but I want to know what your most unnecessary movie choices of 2024 would be. And it doesn't just have to do with budget, but I wanted to talk about that and just kind of go over some facts and figures and everything, because it's just fun. It's just fun to do this stuff around the holidays. Anyway, honorable mentions. So, Borderlands. I mean, this was doomed to fail anyway. Lionsgate has had a horrible 2024. I mean, good grief. Like, and they weren't the most, like, blockbuster studio, but Jesus goddamn Christ, they have a horrible advertising campaign. I mean, good Lord. Or their executives just don't care about advertising. Borderlands was shot all the way back, I think, in like 2021. And then they had reshoots that added an additional like $30 to $35 million on top. So the budget went up to almost $150 million. So it was going to need to make money. And I thought the trailer looked okay. It might be all right. It might be at least dumb fun. And it wasn't. It made $32.9 million worldwide. For those of you who are math majors, that just wasn't going to cut the mustard. And you shouldn't try to cut mustard unless you freeze it. And if you're freezing mustard, you have issues. Borderlands was just unnecessary because it was taking a popular video game IP and basically saying we're going to shave off anything interesting about it. And I've never really played that much of the video games, but I've seen enough playthroughs. I've talked to enough people that played them. They said this didn't come close to capturing the goddamn spirit, and it wasn't going to draw people in. Had they had this come out before Deadpool Wolverine, maybe it would have worked. But honestly, it was doomed to fucking fail. Even if they had brought it out in 2022, it probably would have failed. Though many would have forgotten that it existed by now. Just like I think many forgot that it actually just came out in August. It came out 4.5 months ago. Hands up if you... Did anybody see this in theaters? You want to talk about unnecessary. This is just another bullet in the video game movie franchise corpse where it's like, okay, video game movies can be good. The Sonic movies have proven that. Super Mario Brothers. And a couple others have proven that. The Dungeons and Dragons movie, unfortunately, didn't do all that well. That's more of a role-playing game that has had some video game stuff. But good grief, Borderlands. Unnecessary and, quite frankly, a very ugly to look at movie, despite the fact that Cate Blanchett is in it. That's some talent right there. So we go to The Exorcism, another Russell Crowe movie where he plays somebody that deals with devil possession. But this time he's an actor on a movie set that has addiction issues. Had a $25 million budget and made $9.6 million worldwide. Again, not very good. Not nearly the loss that Borderlands had, but Unnecessary in the sense the Pope's Exorcist wasn't exactly a world beater. I mean, it made money, but it didn't make a fuck ton of money. It made more than this. But the Pope's Exorcist wasn't something that was crying out for... I mean, this isn't exactly a spin-off, but it's in the same flavor because Russell Crowe, exorcism, all that. But it was one of those that was just shoved out. I think I heard about this movie maybe 2-3 weeks before it was going to come out in the theaters. I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll watch it. And within the first time, I'm like, this is just this was a streaming movie that they shoved out in theaters and probably lost money instead of just having a distributor pick it up. Like, that is painfully unnecessary. And it did not work. It did not work at all. It was just another cookie-cutter horror movie. Speaking of which, Night Swim. Fuck you, Jason Blum. God, I hope that your goddamn 2025 is horrible from a movie-making perspective, because I actually don't think he's a bad guy. But, yeah, this was one of 3 Blumhouse movies that they did. They did this, they did Imaginary, and they did Afraid. And I think Imaginary did the best out of all of them, which isn't saying much. They didn't exactly have the best 2024. But unnecessary doesn't begin to describe it. One $15 million budget. I want to know where the $15 million went for this. Because I do not see where they spent it. I mean, I don't blame the filmmakers. They're just trying to take their 2 or 3 minute short film and, spread it out. And if they're going to get money to make it, okay, bless them. Good. You can get your filmmaking career kicked off there. But this only made like $17.6 million. Now, if the 15 included advertising, that's still only a $2.6 million profit. What was accomplished? Had this been a $7 million budget, it still wouldn't have been like an insane profit. And I remember watching this, I ended up catching a special screening of it and just kept thinking, this is an interesting concept had they just had teens. I believe a Band of the Jedi suggested something like this. Or a variation. Just have dopey teens partying and have a haunted pool, have something like that. Have it just go full camp. But when they tried to be campy in this, it didn't work. It was still taking itself too seriously. It was totally inconsistent. It was an unnecessarily bland movie with the tease of a possible sequel, because that's what we need. Night Swim 2, Electric, why the fuck did we make one of these in the first place? Boogaloo. Apartment 7A. I mean, good grief. Good grief. A prequel to Rosemary's Baby that got shoved out on Paramount Plus that, yeah, looked the part and I guess could have possibly served a purpose if there was any reason. It didn't give you any thing to sink your teeth into with the character that, Rosemary herself ran into in the very beginning of the movie. The one that ended up, kicking off all this stuff. Yeah, very, very unnecessary. That's all I'm going to say about that. Apartment 7A was so bland, I actually struggled to remember much of anything about it, except Be My Baby, the song from the end of Barbarian, was in the final scene. Salem's Lot, again, unnecessary remake that really nobody asked for. I mean, I could have put Caddo Lake here, but I decided to put Salem's Lot because they really thought somehow trying to amp up the action by just cutting out any of the dead air, but adding terrible special effects and making the acting worse than the 1979 one, was somehow going to make this work better, and it didn't, and it somehow made me appreciate the 1979 one, even though I didn't really care that much for it. And they shoved it out on Max. I mean, what the fuck? So, yeah, and by the way, no budget or gross for any of these. I mean, I'm guessing Apartment 7A might have cost $5 to $10 million, and I'm guessing Salem's Lot maybe $20. They didn't look like they were that expensive. A Quiet Place Day One, apparently $67 million, not including marketing, so I'm imagining probably around 13 to 15 million, so let's say $80 million. But even if we just take the $67 million right there, for the budget, that's $98.5 million for a worldwide gross. And for those of you that aren't necessarily math majors, for a lot of this needs to increase they need to get their bottom line, built up to the point where it's like, it needs to be twice what the budget was to break even. Somehow. Because math. And A Quiet Place Day One was unnecessary in the sense we already saw what happened on day one. It was far more interesting than any of the bullshit we saw here. Despite Lupita Nyong'o and a cat that was fine, by the way. I felt bad for that cat. I love that cat dearly. I wouldn't die for that cat because I'll die for the producer, even though he's currently sleeping. But the point is who really was asking for this movie to exist when A Quiet Place Part 2 shows what happened on day one and then didn't end up going anywhere once it brought us back to current day? And then this didn't really tell us anything. And the people were just automatically like figuring out they can't make that much noise, and it just felt so pointless. So utterly pointless. So yeah, Quiet Place Day 1, I mean, come on. It was just stupid. Anyway, let's get to the top 10. God, that was a long honorable mention. So anyway, number 10, Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim. I feel bad putting this here because I was looking forward to it, but upon rewatching, or thinking about it rather, I only seen it once, reflecting on it, that's the word I was looking for. Forgive me, I have not felt well the past few days, and I'm a little bit tired. I'm better now, don't worry. So the budget was around $30 million. And the animation was pretty good. Yeah, it was a little janky in some spots, whatever it is, what it is. But as of now, it's only made like $16 million worldwide, and I knew it wasn't going to do well. I at least thought it might break even. In hindsight, they probably should have put it out in the beginning of November because it probably would have done better. And maybe it would have been able to compete with Red 1 and probably compete a little bit better, because trying to go for the Christmas spot, maybe it'll get a boost and maybe it'll end up doing well internationally, but that's just, right now, $16 million worldwide. Ouch. And it just was, besides the animation, it was just another Lord of the Rings story that was basic and didn't really have a lot to tell. It was overly long. Yeah, a little bit of fan service, a little bit of stuff. I found out after I cut my review that the voice of Hera was Emma Thompson's daughter, so we love a fun fact here. And she did well. But the movie itself just really ended up kind of leaving my mind. Like, it's just, there's like a couple decent scenes and that's it. Number 9, VHS Beyond. I mean, the budget was $600K. I don't know if that's for each short or that's just what the total thing was. If so, that makes the first tape remarkable for what they were able to do. And it went right to Shudder. But the reason this is unnecessary is, tell me the last good VHS movie. I mean, 94 was when they brought it back, and it was I think 94. 94, then 99, then 85, and then this. And I might actually be confusing those. The whole point is that the first one they brought back on Shudder was fine, to get the bad taste of viral out of our mouth. You're always going to get a bad viral taste out of your mouth. But after that, it's been dodgy. And Beyond, just to me, the sci-fi twist and the worst wraparound story ever. With some of the worst acting ever in a goddamn VHS movie. Which isn't necessarily known for its acting, but Hannah Fierman, I think is her name, the one that said I Like You, that was in the first tape, Amateur Night. In fact, I need to rewatch that just so I can't sleep, because just that cold stare she gives you will haunt you until your dying days. But VHS beyond the first tape, ironically, with the house and the undead and the weird addict scene. Beyond that, I can't recall any tape that stuck out to me. There was the one where they were in the plane and then they crashed in a field. And it was bland. And they're going to make an 8th one. Fuck. Number 8, The Crow. I've beaten The Crow to death. And I'm not for animal abuse. But the budget was $50 million. It made $24 million worldwide, and I am shocked it made that much. Look, the first Crow, had Brandon Lee not passed away, would have still achieved cult status. Brandon Lee might have had a long career, might have wanted to leave Hollywood after 10 years. Who fucking knows? May he rest in peace. And the last Crow sequel that came out was sometime like in 2000, it was in the mid-2000s or whatever. So it'd been a number of years, and this had been delayed and delayed and delayed, and whether it was Bill Skarsgård or anybody in the lead, whether it was anybody other than formerly known as Twigs, I'm sorry, I feel bad for the person, but as an actress, my God, she is terrible. Doesn't matter who you put in this movie. You could have had an A-list cast, you could have resurrected Laurence Olivier. It would not have worked. This was dead on arrival. Everybody in the theater I saw it in was laughing. We were laughing at it because it was a joke. And it was unnecessary because it was doomed to fucking fail. And it did. Not just commercially, but critically and audience-wise. Nobody really cared for this. There were a couple decent scenes. The opera house scene was fine for what it was. But tell me, beyond that, was there anything good about this that you weren't enjoying ironically? I mean, honestly, what the fuck? So that's why the Crow's up there, but boy, it doesn't beat Beverly Hills Cop Axel F. Yes, they did a fourth Beverly Hills Cop movie 30 years after the third one, the abysmal third one, I might add. Netflix bought it and produced it, and $150 million budget, reportedly. 20 to 30 million of that went to Eddie Murphy. Evidently, Eddie Murphy just decided to check out for the whole goddamn thing because, yes, you need to bring the character forward. It's been 30 years. He's not a young man. I get it. But they made it just like any other cop movie with, like, very little good fan service. It was more like, just look at us, look what we did. Remember this stuff? You know, people that are probably watching this and weren't even alive when the first one came out. I mean, I was 3 years old when the first one came out. I rewatched them in the lead up to this. And beyond the first one, to be honest, the second one wasn't that great. The third one was awful. This one was the worst. Because it was just unnecessary and fell flat. Ironic. Axel F. F for flat. Kind of makes sense. But Beverly Hills Cop I was stunned. I was actually stunned by how unnecessary this movie felt. It was really, really bad. Number 6, The First Omen. You know, the trailer didn't exactly inspire much in me, but I'm like, okay, you know what? I've been wrong about horror prequels before. At least Annabelle Creation. I haven't really been wrong about any other horror prequels. Except Ouija Origin of Evil. Okay, I've been wrong twice. I can be wrong. I wasn't wrong about The First Omen. I mean, I didn't like it at all. But I thought, it'll make its budget back, or it'll actually be a roaring success. Well, it made $53.9 million worldwide. That sounds good. It cost $30 million to make. Now, maybe that includes marketing, maybe that doesn't. There were some admittedly cool shots. But the thing is, since you know how this fucking story is going to go, you have to make the build interesting. How do you waste Ralph Innocent? How do you waste him? Besides maybe making it seem like he was wasted through that. I don't even know if he drinks, but good God. There's no excuse for why acting should be this goddamn bad. And from him. I mean, and even the lead actress whose name escapes me at this point, like just every aspect of this, even the cast that was trying, even like somebody, you know, like Ralph Innocent, any of the positives were immediately just, you know, dashed to fucking death like MXC style because this just felt like another bargain basement, hacked out, goddamn horror prequel that served no purpose. Served nothing. It served no goddamn purpose. And they might want to do another one. Why? So anyway, number 5. Garfield the movie. I forgot this came out in the summer. Now, it cost $60 million, which actually, given the computer graphic, or the CGI and all that, and the animation style, and the fact that usually that's pretty expensive, and even with the cast in it, you would think, okay, it'd probably be about $100 million. Well, it made $254.9 million worldwide. Christ knows why, because it was awful. And I love the Garfield comics. I used to own so many of the books. I would go to my half price books. I would go to Borders. That's how old I am. I would go to so many bookstores and I would buy the other one. I stopped buying them around 40, volume 40, or book 40, whatever they call them. And Jim Davis, you know, a great, you know, comic book artist. Garfield, one of my favorite characters. And I wanted this to at least be decent. I don't remember one fucking joke in this where I was like, yeah, that's actually kind of creative. No. This was very much just put out there to get kids' interest. Kids who had never seen a Garfield movie. Kids who had never heard of Garfield. Maybe the parents hadn't said, oh, my kid will love Garfield like I did. I mean, they'll love this Garfield, but they'll think this Garfield's good, and he's not, and you need to teach your little shit something good so they actually can grow up to not be idiots. And I'm sorry to dump on so many goddamn kids, because I like dumb shit when I was a kid, but goddamn it seems like movies are getting dumber directed towards kids, which is sad because Inside Out 2 was really good. It's not on this, but Garfield the movie is, because good goddamn Christ. They might make a sequel to it. God forbid if they do, because I don't think they're going to get a return like they got on this one. The word is out that it's not all that great. Like, audience scores, depending on what you believe, like, audience scores range from middling to decent. But nobody is really talking about this like you would think, even just after a few months. Number 4, Mufasa the Lion King. Okay, it'll probably end up making quite a bit of money, but it's made, I think I saw, like, it's made like $122 million worldwide. Which is good that it did well in the international box office, because it got killed by Sonic 3. And a $200 million budget, which may just, be for the CGI and the terrible lighting and the bland voice acting and the fact that it was just this is an unnecessary. This actually probably should have been number 1. Because nobody really was crying out for an origin story of Mufasa the Lion King, but evidently Disney thought so, and they thought we'll equal what The Lion King 2019 did, which made $191 million in its opening weekend. And this is probably going to take a couple weeks just to do that. Yeah, it'll probably make it over the Christmas holiday. It'll end up turning a profit. But it's not going to make $1.6 billion like the 2019 one did. It might crack $1 billion if they're lucky. But even the reception, for some people, I didn't see it with a packed audience. But the Sonic 3 crowd I saw was a lot more interested than whoever was watching Mufasa the Lion King. It was just bland with bad music and just an overall feel like Disney could have shoved this out on streaming like they did the 2022 Pinocchio movie. Which, yes, was actually a thing. Did you know that Robert Zemeckis directed a Pinocchio movie? No, of course you fucking didn't, because only people like me that want to watch anything on a streaming service would. But yeah, Mufasa the Lion King was horrible. Fucking horrible. And just painfully bland. And unnecessary. Number 3, Twisters. Twisters. Never were such devoted Twisters. Look, I love the first Twister. It has its flaws. It has its issues. But Twisters, adjusted for inflation, cost about the same as the first one. So 28 years later, $155 million budget, or thereabouts. Could have been 180, who gives a shit. $370 million worldwide gross. So, okay, it turned a profit even if it cost $180 million with marketing. But who asked for this? Who asked for a sequel almost 30 years after, or a reimagining, or whatever, or an almost shot-for-shot remake with just a few amped-up portions with just dimmer characters, dumber characters, and just one-note bullshit story elements that nobody could get wrapped up in this. I mean, if you did, that's fine, because nobody could get wrapped up in this bullshit because it didn't fucking work. It didn't work at all. Twisters just ended up feeling so generic and bland and just bullshit. And just by the end of it, I'm like, there was absolutely no point to this. Yeah, there were, I guess, a few cool moments if you've never fucking seen an action movie in your life. If you've never seen a disaster movie in your life. If you never took your head off the pillow because you were in a medically induced coma and then just wandered to a theater, not understanding how the hell you got there. And you probably still wouldn't have appreciated it. Number 2, Red One. Yeah, rock the Dwayne Johnson. Dwayne's Rock Hard Johnson just went flaccid here. $250 million budget. $250 million, whatever. It's made maybe $177 million worldwide. Now, this movie needed to be a roaring success, and Dwayne's constant tardiness and pissing in bottles, allegedly, and all that, and all the stuff, all the rumors and innuendos and innuendos, and also the fact that Hiram Garcia can't write for shit, and is an example of nepotism that needs to be stomped out and just kept away from Hollywood. Even though nepotism has always existed in Hollywood, at least some of the people that are actual kids or related to particular directors, actors, or whatever are, at least good in most instances. But yeah, Red One was just this horrible concept that wouldn't have even worked as just a $120 million Amazon original shoved out onto the streaming service. But no, in this sense, double the budget, double your fun, doublemint, dumb. That's what this was. J.K. Simmons, rock the Dwayne Johnson. Chris Evans. Lucy Liu came back for apparently no reason. And Karen Shipka, by the way, who was also in Twisters. Not for very long. I wouldn't want to be in Twisters very long if I knew how bad it was going to be. And Red One is one of the most unnecessary Christmas movies I've ever seen. I basically said in my review, cancel Christmas is not worth it, and I stand by it. And number one with a bullet, The Strangers Chapter 1. Yeah, okay, I've dumped on it. This is all I'm going to say. $8.5 million budget. $48 million gross worldwide. Okay. Yeah, it made its budget a few times over. Yeah, it was a success. But answer me this. Was it necessary to rehash this? Is it necessary to carry it on for 2 more movies? Do you want to see this story continue when the first one was just a rehash of what Liv Tyler and Scott Speedman did? And they seemingly wrote off in Strangers Pray at Night that took 10 goddamn years to make. This took 6 years to make. Did anybody feel that this movie is necessary to continue a thing going on with these particular people that nobody really cared about? These killers that, honest to God, by Strangers Pray at Night, you're just like, I don't know how they killed anybody. They can't dispatch these stupid kids. So, rehash, reboot or not, you couldn't take out these 2 dumb fucks for how long? It's not tense. It's not scary. It's just so bad. Yeah, that went a little bit longer than I thought, but I need to dump on some more stuff. Anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments. That is, like, share, subscribe, Twitter, Letterboxd, and Blue Sky handles in the description. I'm John Rickland. I'll see you soon.